I was born with a complex urinary system, which meant that I was incontinent both day and night. I had a very limited capacity in my bladder and I had no sphincter muscle. The medical professionals didn't pick up on it until I was about 8 years old. So until then I was left to my own devices, and I was told that if I had to try and build up my own control, then things would improve. But it never did. So throughout school they tried lots of different processes, and the worst one that always springs to mind is the one where I had to have an egg timer in the school, in the class, and it would go off every 30 minutes, and then the whole class would kind of count down and I'd have to run off to the toilet and go from there. And then it was a couple of years or so after that they actually diagnosed my defects. And then they introduced incontinence pads and I started to use them, which at that point I would then have to go into the toilets and obviously change my pads, etc. every time I'd go, and have to try and use them more frequently. But of course bullying in school got a lot worse at those stages, because then I'd be coming out of the cubicle with a use one of those. So in the end, the teachers would allow me to use the staff toilet, which was just across the corridor. So the children, which I had my own key for, so the children would see me going in and out of the toilet to use that one, which started to begin sort of more isolation issues, because I would then be using a different toilet. So it was kind of like, you know, which was the worst option. But I think generally that was so that I had access to bins and hand washing facilities in a closed area, whereas in the children's toilets there was just literally the cubicles and then the basins outside. So I do feel as though sort of bins within each toilet is a necessity, and being able to be discreet and also being able to sort of like have the space around you to be able to prepare yourself and things like that, with the aids that you need within toilets. My incontinence was evening and daytime. So at night, my mum was given me the advice by a family counsellor to wake me every 2 hours to go to the toilet, and hopefully things would improve. Which was obviously very hard for my mum to have that pressure to wake up every 2 hours to get me and battle with me to get myself to the toilet, which as a child going through school and being bullied at school, didn't want to get up at night or anything at all. And I would then have nightmares and things throughout the night as well. So it really wasn't a good way of tackling things. I would always isolate myself, so I wouldn't go to like sleepover parties, pyjama parties or anything like that, because I wouldn't put myself into a situation whereas I had to show my incontinence more than what I had to through school anyway. So I would just never put myself into a situation whereas, although in the end I was wearing incontinence pads, I would still leak through and it would still go onto my clothing and things. So I've never put myself into a situation whereas I was more out of my control.